On a quiet night over the Atlantic Ocean, thousands of feet above the dark, endless water, a fully loaded passenger jet suddenly went silent. No engine roar. No thrust. Just the sound of wind rushing past powerless wings. Inside the cockpit, pilots stared at their instruments in disbelief. Both engines had failed. Fuel completely gone, and below them stretched nothing but the cold Atlantic. This is the terrifying true story of Air Transat Flight 236. Welcome to Nascent Bulletin, where we uncover real events that prove truth can be more intense than fiction. Today's story is not about crime or mystery, it is about survival and skill. And one of the most incredible saves in aviation history, on August 24, 2001, an Airbus A330 operated by Air Transat departed Toronto, Canada, heading for Lisbon, Portugal. On board were 306 people, minus 293 passengers and 13 crew members. It was a routine transatlantic flight, crossing thousands of kilometers of open ocean. For several hours, everything seemed normal. Then, while cruising at 39,000 feet, the crew noticed something unusual. Fuel readings began to show an imbalance between the left and right wings. At first, it appeared to be a standard issue, something pilots are trained to manage. But what they didn't yet realize was far more serious. A maintenance issue prior to the flight had led to the installation of an incorrect hydraulic component. That mismatch caused a fuel line to rub against a hydraulic tube. Over time, vibration wore down the line, and fuel began leaking into the sky, invisible in the darkness. Inside the cockpit, warning systems activated. The crew attempted corrective procedures, believing they were dealing with a fuel imbalance rather than a leak. As they transferred fuel between tanks to stabilize readings, precious fuel was unknowingly draining away into the night. Minutes later, the unimaginable happened. One engine shut down. Then the second. At 34,500 feet over the Atlantic Ocean, Air Transat Flight 236 became a powerless glider. No engine thrust, no chance to restart. Just gravity. The captain, Robert Pitch, and First Officer Dirk Dejiger now faced one of the worst-case scenarios in aviation, a complete dual-engine failure over open ocean. The nearest suitable landing location was Lajes Air Base in the Azores, a small island chain belonging to Portugal, but there was a problem. They were still more than 100 kilometers away. Without engines, the aircraft had limited electrical power. Emergency systems activated automatically, deploying a small turbine called the ram air turbine, which extended into the airflow beneath the fuselage to provide minimal power for essential instruments and flight controls. Passengers felt the shift immediately. The cabin grew quieter than ever before. The normal engine hum disappeared. Some sensed something was wrong. Others noticed the descent. Inside the cockpit, the pilots calculated their glide ratio. An Airbus A330, under ideal conditions, can glide approximately 15 to 20 kilometers for every kilometer of altitude, but they had to be precise. Too steep, and they would fall short. Too shallow, and they would lose control or overshoot. They had one chance. For nearly 20 minutes, the aircraft glided silently through the night, descending thousands of feet, moving closer to land with no margin for error. Air traffic controllers at Lajes prepared for an emergency landing. Fire crews rushed into position, runway lights illuminated the darkness. As the aircraft approached the island, another challenge emerged. They were too high and too fast. Normally, engines allow pilots to adjust speed and descent with thrust. But with no engines, every maneuver had to be calculated using aerodynamics alone. Captain Pitch executed a risky but necessary maneuver, a steep banking turn to bleed off altitude and align with the runway. Inside the cabin, passengers experienced intense banking angles, unaware of the full situation. At just 200 miles per hour, much faster than a normal landing speed, the Airbus touched down hard on the runway. Without engine power, braking systems were limited. Tires burst under pressure. Sparks flew as the aircraft slowed down, but it stopped. All 306 people survived. Some suffered minor injuries during evacuation, but no lives were lost. The world was stunned. A commercial jetliner had glided farther than any other large passenger aircraft in history, nearly 120 kilometers without engines. The event became known as one of the longest powerless flights ever conducted by a commercial airliner. Investigations later revealed the chain of maintenance errors that led to the fuel leak. The incorrect part installation had triggered the catastrophic failure. Procedures were reviewed. Safety protocols were strengthened. But amid the technical details, one fact stood out. The calm, calculated actions of the flight crew saved every life on board. Captain Robert Pitch, once controversial earlier in his career due to a past legal issue, was now recognized worldwide for his exceptional skill under pressure. Aviation experts praised the crew's decision-making, discipline, and composure. Air Transat Flight 236 became a case study in pilot training programs around the world, proof that even in the worst possible scenario, preparation and professionalism can make the difference between disaster and survival. Imagine sitting in that cabin, thousands of meters above the ocean, unaware that both engines had stopped. Imagine the silence, the descent, the uncertainty, and then imagine the relief when the wheels touched solid ground. This story reminds us that aviation, while incredibly safe, depends on layers of precision, engineering, maintenance, communication, and human skill. When one layer fails, others must compensate. On that August night in 2001, technology faltered, fuel vanished, engines died, but human expertise prevailed. If you found this real-life survival story gripping and want more cinematic deep dives into aviation mysteries, true events, and incredible moments of human resilience, make sure to subscribe to Nascent Bulletin. Like this video, and share it with others who are fascinated by stories where courage meets crisis, because sometimes, the most terrifying moments in history end, not in tragedy, but in miracles shaped by skill and determination.